Brandon Beane admitting that Keon Coleman is only 20 years old and he not only has room to grow with his skills, but even physically already at 6'4". Brandon Beane saying like, hey, look, we don't even really quite know. He could still actually physically grow. That means Keon Coleman could actually get taller. And that is absolutely insane at only 20 years old. The skill set that he brings to the Buffalo Bills, we have not had here really in the McDermott era. And you reflect back to the very beginning when we brought in Kelvin Benjamin, and it was just a major letdown. Yes, Kelvin Benjamin had the size, but he was just past his prime. He was out of shape, and he just really didn't dedicate himself, I don't think, to football. And I really believe the Buffalo Bills move on to Duke Williams, another tall, physical type wide receiver that was winning those 50-50 jump balls, those high point balls. And then we move on to really Gabe Davis being that tall, physical wide receiver for like the next 4 or 5 seasons. And I really think you look at the difference between Keon Coleman and Gabe Davis, who probably had the most success here as that physical type skill set wide receiver. I think Keon Coleman really in year one, because of his catching ability and size over Gabe Davis. I mean, he's already 2 to 3 inches taller than Gabe Davis. And I think he's got a lot better hands than Gabe Davis. One thing I'll give Gabe Davis credit for is that he had great body control. You know, that toe drag swag along the sidelines, you know, maintaining body control. But when you look at the overall body control of Keon Coleman compared to Gabe Davis, again, Keon Coleman, 6'4", 220-something pounds. Gabe Davis, 6'2", you know, about 200 pounds. It's much harder for a bigger wide receiver to maintain body control and also run after catch ability. And I think Keon Coleman actually still has better body control than Gabe Davis. I think he's potentially a crispier, if not the same in route running with Gabe Davis. And I think he's got better hands. I mean, have we seen the highlight reels of Keon Coleman and his one-handed snatches? I mean, we haven't had that in Buffalo. Not even Stephon Diggs. Like Stephon Diggs, smaller, agile, quicker receiver, one of the best route runners in the NFL, you know, possession type wide receiver. And I think like that's how he was successful. This is a completely new skill set dynamic that the Buffalo Bills really have not had at the wide receiver position. And you really see what Keon Coleman presents with his skills coming out of college, how that's going to translate to the NFL. And we spoke about it. Justin Shorter, another 6'4", 220 pound wide receiver that's just a dynamic, unbelievable skill set, but super raw. And Chris Brown on One Bills Drive brought up a very interesting point about Keon Coleman, is that he was a dual sport athlete, meaning that he grew up playing basketball and he grew up playing football. Therefore, not all of his time was allocated just strictly to dedicating himself to football. You know, meaning maybe less reps, maybe less practice, less time. It's kind of the philosophy behind it. In my mind, I think the basketball stuff ultimately helped him as well for the NFL, just like Stevie Johnson. Stevie Johnson used his separation at the line of scrimmage off press with basketball, the cross step and all these things, like, and also using your body, going up, getting the ball, like a rebound in basketball, having strong hands. Like, you really have to have strong hands to pluck that ball right out of the air. Keon Coleman presents a higher ceiling in every single facet of being a wide receiver for the Buffalo Bills. And I know some people comparing him to DeAndre Hopkins. I think that is a good example and a good comparison. I think Keon Coleman's run after catch ability is being very underrated too, because of the size of what he is. Like, yes, he's not unbelievably the fastest. I mean, 5'3", 4'5" is 4.53 is like a very great time, especially for a big, tall, physical wide receiver. He's going to come in, compete with Mac Hollins, come in, compete with Justin Shorter, who share those similar skill sets. He'll be able to learn from Mac Hollins too, and his experience being that type of wide receiver. Man, I just love what Keon Coleman is bringing to the Buffalo Bills. You know, Josh Allen really just in certain situations when you need to play, you got Dalton Kincaid. I think Dalton Kincaid not going to drop it. We got Khalil Shakir, clearly the best wide receiver of the NFL at drops. And then now we have Keon Coleman, who is an excellent catcher of the football. And I think what this is ultimately going to do, it's going to increase Josh Allen's completion percentage naturally. I mean, we saw drops from Gabe Davis, clearly saw the drop from Stephon Diggs. The missed opportunities on this team, and we cannot afford that anymore. And we have the players to overcome that with Keon Coleman, Dalton Kincaid, Khalil Shakir. Like, these are dynamic weapons, and I just love what Keon Coleman is going to present. Look at each and every single skill set that we have here. Even Curtis Samuel. I mean, Curtis Samuel coming out, he ran, I believe it was a 4.33 or a 4.31 40-yard dash when Curtis Samuel came out. So he's the speed demon. He's the fast guy on this team. He's that John Brown that we've been missing. For whatever reason, he's a little bit thicker and fuller. He might not look like he'd be the fastest wide receiver, but he has enough speed to blow the top off defenses. And then we have now Keon Coleman on the outside, that jump ball, 50-50 jump ball type. Depending how defenses want to play us, we'll just throw the ball up there and take our chances with Keon Coleman, who's got one-handed snatches. I never saw a real sure-handed, one-handed grabbing catch of the football from a wide receiver. I don't think Stephon Diggs ever did it. I mean, he kind of cradled the football and brought it in maybe with one hand. Gabe Davis, I don't really recall like a one-handed snatch necessarily. The hands that Keon Coleman has, the size that he has over all of the wide receivers that we have, right? Like the tallest, potentially the best route runner, the best body control, having maybe even better run after catch ability than Gabe Davis too. He's 20 years old. Brandon Beane saying that he could still grow to be physically taller, and he's also going to grow and become a much better Buffalo Bills wide receiver. Absolutely love it. I think even Andre Reed said he already reached out to him, and I mean, that's just a great sign to see. And lastly too, like his character, he's funny. I think he's going to bring a little bit of light back to this locker room. I think Trey White brought that to the Bills, and now we have it with Keon Coleman. I think he's going to bring that fun back to this Buffalo Bills offense. And, I think we've clearly turned the page. We've turned the page. It's Josh Allen's time to flourish with these new weapons. No one's going to really know how to play the Buffalo Bills. Joe Brady and the Brady bunch, we're going to figure it out here in 2024. But I appreciate you guys all so much. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit like, subscribe to future content. Drop your comments down below about Keon Coleman. Let me know what you guys think he's going to present to the Buffalo Bills. Look at all the differences between our wide receivers now. It's going to be huge. Appreciate you. Hit like and subscribe. Go Bills.